What's up, guys? Brady Fugel here, coming at you with a review of the new Cold Steel album, Discipline and Punish, released this past Friday, November 7th. This is this band's debut album. I actually discovered them a couple years ago with the release of their most recent EP, Deeper into Greater Pain. And I really liked their style. They were kind of like that fusion of hardcore and thrash metal, similar to a band like Hatebreed. But the vocals were a lot raspier. The music at times was a bit more metallic, I would say. But they brought the grooves on that record, they brought the riffs, they brought the aggression, and I was a big fan of it. So I've been somewhat eagerly anticipating this debut album from this band. One thing I did not expect, though, was this album to be as diverse as it is, especially stylistically. For one, while there are remnants of that same foundation of the hardcore and the thrash metal present on here, they seem to have evolved past that as their overall style. The subgenre blending on this record by itself is probably my biggest compliment for this record, but overall, if I had to give it one label, I would say it probably goes the most for groove metal to my ears. This band's grooves were some of my favorite parts on that EP, so it was great to hear them embrace that maybe even a little bit more on this album. And before I get into specifics about the groove metal influence and all the other influences on here, I will single out that regardless what style I compliment, the band does a great job throughout this record of keeping it modern sounding, for the most part. Maybe there's one or two exceptions. But a great instance of the groove metal influence of the track Vantage, which is a contender for my favorite song on here. From the intro, it almost sounds like it takes influence from System of a Down's Prison song. But once you get past that, it's just crushing groove after crushing groove on this song. One of my favorite riffs, period, on this record kicks into the 111. This is just such a riff for me at the end of the day. These are the kind of riffs that I like writing. They're the kind of riffs I like listening to. But then halfway through the song, it really changes. The track really evolves, and you get this come down for this quieter bridge before it leads into a double tempo change, and the song ends up ending with this almost slam influence section. Just describing that song alone, I mean, how many different influences and sounds did I just talk about? The track Protocol, despite having maybe somewhat of a weird jolting main riff, brings in a lot of Pantera influence, especially in that solo. Killing Season is another track where it just vicious, infectious groove one after the other the whole time. It's a really, really catchy song. And also the closer, The Coldest Death, has a lot of just stopping grooves that really drive the song as well. Of all the subgenre blending on here, though, the most out of left field moments to me were when the band went full-on fucking nu metal on multiple moments of these songs. And I'm being serious. There's turntables show up on the track Smoking Mirrors. There's also a rap section in that song. Also, just the riffing on a track like Killing Season, and also the track Front to Enemy, which is another favorite of mine. The riffs, just the way that they bounce, just brings to mind 1999. Front to Enemy in particular is another song that I will compliment a lot for having these influences, but still sounding really modern and diverse. The song starts with blast beats before it gets into that nu metal influence riff, and then that kind of verse. I think I should call it a verse section. These songs are pretty dynamic in their structure as well, which is another compliment. But I think there's this verse section, I'll call it, where these guitar leads are floating over, and it sounds really interesting. The chorus is super meaty, then you get that crushing tempo change at the end with Aaron Hurd from Jesus Piece guesting on the vocals. It was awesome to hear him on this song, too. I fucking loved that last Jesus Piece record, and I'm really disappointed that the band called it quits. Another really cool song is the track Return to Agony, which starts off with a very death metal leaning intro, just in the melodies, and then that chunky second riff that comes in, but then it transitions into having this 6/8 bounce, and then in that chorus section you get little hints, just really tiny slivers, hints of clean vocals. It's like they peppered them in ever so slightly so they wouldn't get any criticisms of, oh, this is the song with the clean vocals. And personally, I wouldn't have minded. I think the song probably would have been just as good, if not better, if the cleans themselves were pushed a bit higher in the mix, because they do sound very, very layered and saturated with screamed vocals next to them and on top of them. But I think the melodies in that chorus section are really cool, and maybe the band should have went all in on it. It would have been another moment on this record where they kind of throw you something out of left field, like I mentioned. The band also on this record experiments a bit with some melodic sounds. There never ends up being full, prominent, clean vocals, but The outro track, or the ending track, the Coldest Death, which is one of my favorites, it starts with this really moody, somber intro. And at first I was a little worried because sometimes like a heavy band will do that, and then it just kicks into heavy music and there isn't like really much continuity. But the song actually does have continuity because those ideas, they end up coming back later on in the song near the end. And again, the awesome fucking grooves in this song do a great job at complementing that. The drums in particular, they just maintain this triplet stomp for like the first half of the song. There was also the track Fever Dreaming. This was kind of the other melodic attempt on here, the most melodic attempt, I would even say. Unfortunately, I wasn't really into this song for reasons I will elaborate on. As far as highlights, there was also the lead single Blacksmith of Damnation. What I really enjoyed about this song was just that it has a lot of different feels the entire time. Like, it uses similar parts, but there's a lot of different types of feels. Like the intro, it's really lumbering and staggering like that, but then you get those steamrolling verses and a really bouncy chorus. It's a lot of different feels. That's what I mean by that. And again, that tempo change at the end with that fucking mean breakdown still remains a highlight on this record for me, despite the song being a few months old now. All that being said, there are a few moments on this record that underwhelm me, and just it's either the songs themselves maybe feeling a little bit stale, a little bit uninspired, or because there's some experimentation that doesn't really work. Like I mentioned, Fever Dreaming, that is a song where they clearly try to incorporate some melody into their album, which is something I respect. I mean, I know making this style of music myself, this hardcore, thrash, whatever, all this stuff combined, groove metal, like, it can be hard to vary the sound of your album. So I like that the band feels bold enough to incorporate some really prominent melody on this track, but the problem is this track, I think, does a little bit too much in a sense, and as a result, it feels a little bit directionless, and like there wasn't like a clear idea with the song. There's some cool parts, like I think that solo is pretty tuneful. There's those melodic leads that kick off the song when the full band really kicks in. The melodies themselves almost bring to mind like a touch of melodeath, or maybe even like some melodic major key black metal. I just find this song a little bit hard to follow on an emotional level, because to me, I think the best way I can describe this is that if, let's say you played me this song and I'd never heard of this band, and I didn't know the context of what the rest of this album or their catalog sounded like, this song would sound to me, and it does sound to me, like a melodic attempt from an aggressive band, like something this band doesn't normally do. I think you can hear that in the execution of this song. Not bad, it's just a song that I winced at. That's really the best way of putting it. I wasn't a fan of the opener, No Escape, which I think was also the second single. It brings in almost like a classic metal type vibe at times, but this is one of the few songs on here that does feel a little bit dated. And the song's slower tempo for the majority, it makes it come off a little bit sluggish, a little bit lethargic, and the song just lacks a certain energy until later on when the tempo picks up, and then it does build some energy. But at that point, the damage has kind of already been done. I do think the main riff on the track Protocol is just a little bit jolting. Like, it's not really... It's almost catchy. That's the best way of putting it. It really is. It's almost catchy, but it's not quite there for me. Although the rest of the song, though, is pretty enjoyable. Like, the vocals in that track are great. They're nonstop the whole time and are just super aggressive. So, I mean, if you were a follower of this band already and you were expecting this album to be somewhat of a continuation of the EP that dropped last year, I think you're in for kind of a surprise. And whether this experimentation that they go for on this record panned out or didn't pan out for them on this record, like you've just heard me give examples of both, I really do respect the fact that they really just went all out with diversifying the record. I mean, there's a fucking full-on nu metal song with turntables on this album. That's really bold, especially for a band this is their debut album. I guess I didn't really elaborate on that track much, but that's also a track that overall I enjoy. I mean, the verses super bouncy. I like the alternating open-closed hi-hat on the drums. Drummers will pick that out pretty easily. So I think I respect them even more for actually kind of pulling the song off, which on paper wouldn't be something that I think I would expect. So despite this record having some mediocre moments at times, it's a really dynamic record, a really diverse record, and a promising start for this band. And even for this being their debut album, I already have no idea what I should expect to hear from them next. And that's awesome for a new band. There's a lot of different directions after this record that they can go in with their next record. Are they going to get more melodic? Are they going to go back to the sound of their EP? Are they going to do kind of a mix of both? Are they going to experiment more in different directions? There's just a lot of stuff this band can do, and I'll be still following them, honestly. The song gets a 21 out of 30 for me. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've heard this album, please comment your thoughts below on it. Remember to please hit subscribe for more rock and metal-related content, as well as check out the description for all my links. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace.